superstar in the house today.
Superstar.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah.
All right,
So
guys.
Dakota, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. I know most people probably do know you, but go ahead and let's hear that herp origin story you got.
Oh man. So I'm Dakotah. I run Dakotah Blue Exotics. We specialize in. I actually just made a list of this. Tokay geckos, high-end tokay gecko mutations and morphs is our real focus. A lot of New Caledonian crested geckos, gargoyle, chihuahua, lychee. And then next year we're also rolling out standing eye, Urodactylodes, clemeri, lineatus, and we did just get in a pair of Anolis macuba and Anolis marmosatus, I believe is that the leopard anole. So we got quite a few different projects going on right here. Started out with a little bearded dragon that I got from New England Reptile about 10 or 11 years ago, and it kind of has just spiraled to what this monstrosity is behind me.
Nice.
That's
So
awesome.
what made you actually decide on those anolas, man?
So I've really found, so I built, so 2023, I started what I call Project Jungle, and it was just me not being happy with how my enclosures were set up. I got really tired of trying to get like the perfect B-roll shot where I couldn't get all of the enclosures because the enclosures just didn't look very nice on video. And that's when I decided to make the switch of transforming every single enclosure I have into a bioactive vivarium. And something I noticed very quickly is most of the reptiles I have squash my plants very fast. So it
Oh
became
yeah.
it became a bit of an issue, especially with like the lychees, chewies. This was probably my best tank right over here, and I've had to redo it so many times because the Chihuahua just destroy it. So I'm trying to
Mm.
get a little bit more focused on stuff that can benefit from bioactive themselves, and are just they work symbiotically a little bit better. So I found the day geckos like the neon days, the clemeri, the lineatus, just more of those micro species, and the nulls themselves because they're so lightweight. I think they make absolutely fantastic display animals. They're really observant and just a really cool species. I started out with just the regular old junkyard greens that everyone has. You
Mm.
usually get it for like $7, and it's like your first reptile that you kill within 2 weeks. I find them to be an incredible species, and so I just kind of went from there. I think it just works on all angles for us.
It's
Nice.
awesome.
Go ahead.
So I've been watching you for years, man. Right? Like I've been following you for years, and I think it's amazing, man. What you've done from collection wise, and kind of no disrespect, but not necessarily knowing for a fact what you wanted to do. Right? Like you just had a passion for reptiles to honing in like over the last even year or so, like you said with your Project Jungle and whatnot. You've kind of set your eyes on a prize, right? A goal, and I think it's amazing, right? Like you've went from a collection to a business. Now you have this whole, you sell all the bioactive products. Like you've become a mini Josh's Frogs, right? Like what was your motivation? What was your motivation, and how, I guess, take us from collection to today's business. Like walk our followers through the steps, your inspirations, and maybe touch on it briefly, your future goals, where you plan on taking Dakotah Blue Exotics and Project Jungler. What are you calling your bio? Are you calling that something else? Your bio
I I
company?
don't. I honestly think Project Jungle's already
Yeah.
listed. It's like some high
Really?
school project to like
Nah.
plant trees. So I can't coin Project Jungle. I think next year the coin's going to be like Project DB Jungle or something, and I'm really going to start
Nice.
separating that from Dakotah Blue
Nice.
Exotics as its own thing.
Nice.
But
Okay.
You're
it's just
definitely
about
onto something.
finding the time
You're
with all
definitely
of that.
onto something with that, man. Definitely onto something.
Yeah, the it's been a it's been quite a journey, man. Over, I think we've been on YouTube for 5 years now. I started YouTube about 3 months when I started. Back then it was, back then it was Jungle Herps, worst name I ever came up with. After getting made fun of for the sixth time in a row, I decided to change it to DVCB because I thought it rolled off the tongue very well. Turns out no one can understand it, and they put like DVCA. So then it became Dakotah Blue Exotics. But yeah, I was kind of all over the place for a really long time. We started with crested geckos. I've been doing crested geckos for way before DBCB Exotics. It's been quite a few years I've been doing cresteds. But we started with those. I shortly got into tokays, and then we did red-eyed crocodile skinks for a while. That was a really fun project, but when you're trying to run a business, an animal that only produces about two babies a year, twice a year, one egg, is just not lucrative enough when you only have a limited amount of space at the time that I had. We did Mexican black king snakes for a little bit. Then we went full out, did tegus. We were trying monitor lizards. It was I was definitely not focused whatsoever. And it wasn't until I want to say it was last year. It was in 2023 where I ended up early 2023. I ended up losing my house. I was actually sleeping in my so I had an off-site facility from my house, and I was sleeping in there for about 6 weeks trying to figure out what to do. So sleeping on a wooden floor. I just had a sleeping bag when it was about 88 degrees during the day, 80 degrees at night because I insulated the shit out of that building so it retained heat super well. Great for reptiles, awful if you want to sleep in it. You can actually, if you look at some videos from that time frame, you can see all my blankets and stuff shoved to a corner in some point. So that's what I do. I would wake up, get to work, film YouTube videos, edit them, and then go to sleep in the same building. It was not the best experience, but it was that point when I lost the house. It was an old house, 1976. It was a modular home, and the roof ended up collapsing. So I ended up
Mm,
having to start all over. My girlfriend Casey was amazing enough to let me stay with her and move everything in here. Now we're talking, hundreds of reptiles. I have two birds, a very I love her, but a very annoying rescue dog as well. Very neurotic, has a lot of problems. So I'm come with a host of baggage, and she was nice enough to let me take up a pretty large amount of space in here to
that's
continue what I'm
awesome.
doing. And that's when I really realized I needed to get more focused. I just lost everything once again, and I need to build it back up. So we started really focusing on certain projects. Tokays are a big thing. I found I was doing good at this at the time. I've now found it's a huge mistake was the crested geckos, right? Crested geckos doing absolutely fantastic for the past couple of few years. And it wasn't until about, I want to say late 2022, 2023, the cappuccinos, super caps came out. And then super caps ended up having with nostril problems, a whole host of different health issues. They're not really a viable mutation. Crashed the cap market, crashed the crested market. So it was at that point really where that was happening, and the market's kind of shitty right now. And
Mm,
then I started doing this bioactive stuff where I thought I don't really want to. I don't want to mass breed like I've been doing. I'm mass breeding. I only produce upwards of 100, not like huge numbers, but probably around 100 to 200 animals. And I wasn't having that good of a
mm,
time with it. Wasn't happy looking at my enclosures. I decided to do the Project Jungle. My first thought of it was my first idea to launch the bioactive store was because plants and substrates and everything were so expensive that I was hoping I could offshoot some of that. I didn't think it was going to blow
mm,
up to what it is now. I thought I was like, this is going to be like a cool little thing. I know people are building alongside with me. They want to upgrade their enclosures too, so they can get stuff through me. It'll be a fun little thing while we build closures, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It turned out it did. It's now surpassing my animal sales by a good amount to the point where I'm trying to focus more on expanding that side of the business as my capitalistic business practice where we focus on the products, we
mm,
focus on the business stuff. And now, when it comes to my reptiles, I want to downsize a pretty heavily amount and start getting into the species like the anoles, continuing on with my tokays, not really worrying about what they're worth, but worrying more about my excitement and passion of the project and how I can further help the hobby. So, tokays, very little captive bred doing. It's definitely risen up in the past couple of years, but before it was
mm.
minuscule. I think a handful of people were taking it seriously, and I've seen that number rise and rise ever is getting more in captive bred stuff going for him, and I kind of want to continue going that on, shining spotlights on animals that are either overlooked or have a bad stereotype, and just really stop making the hobby such a ball python fest. Ball python, crusty geckos, leopards, anything like that. No offense to anyone breeding them, man, but I am so fucking tired of going to shows and it's just a sea. The last show I went to, I was
Yeah.
looking around and I go to my buddy that's also been. I'm like, dude, this show sucks, man. There is nothing here, and I'm part of the problem. I have crested geckos. I'm trying to downsize the cresteds, and so I'm just
Yeah.
another. Now I got the plants and everything, but for the most part, I don't want to be part of the problem that I have in my head. Is that so?
Absolutely, dude.
So
Absolutely. That's why we started the podcast. Like we both felt that there was so many cool species They're just overlooked for these gateway animals. Like, and they'll always have a spot, right? Your leopard geckos, your crested geckos, like they're always going to have a place in the hobby. But we're all not children. When we were kids, you could walk into a reptile show and see like you were in a zoo. It'd be a
It was incredible.
field of different animals, and every table was different. Now, like you said, you walk in, ball python, crested geckos, leopard geckos, done. Do a loop again, same shit. It's I commend you for doing that, bro. I really do, man. Like I said, I've been watching you evolve over these couple of years, and I really, really admire what you're doing because with the following you have the power to change people's perception, right? You can change people's direction, and not that you're manipulating them or any way, but you're opening their eyes to seeing that there is cooler
Exactly.
stuff, man. There is much cooler things out there, and there's great, better ways to keep them. Animals we buy one or two. Supplies you're going to buy forever, like you said. You set your Chihuahua enclosure up. How many times you replace them plants? You know, it's for the same animal. You keep buying them. You did a brilliant thing, man. The day you unrolled it, Dakotah, I knew you were going to succeed. The day I watched a video and you were launching a Project Jungle, I was like, this kid's going to crush it with this. This kid's going to crush it with this stuff. And I don't even think you're even close to getting to the
Oh,
end of where you're going to go with it, bro.
I have. There's so I really appreciate that. I didn't ask like I didn't take like a really big poll, but just from like close friends and people that I look up to, I had a lot of people that were like, "Dude, the market's bad, man. There's already a monopoly. Josh's Frogs, Bio, dude. I don't think it's gonna be worth anything. You might do well at shows, but I was like, if two people are monopolizing an entire section of the business, that is some wild.
Yep.
That's a wild take. So yeah, I spent the last bit. I always spend all my cash on to reinvest, and I never have like money on hand. It just continues to go back into it. But I spent the last 2 grand I had to do a soft launch of this, and we're not even close. We actually just upgraded. I just got a giant box in of magnolian leaves that I haven't listed yet. So we're
Nice.
upgrading our leaf litter setups. There's so many different plants. I mean, we were just doing the basics right now. There's a lot I can do to expand, and a lot of ideas that I have
Hell yeah.
to continue expanding that side of
Absolutely.
the business.
Nice,
Absolutely, man. I
nice.
wish you nothing but the best for a kid. I mean, you don't need my luck, man. I promise you, you will stick to it, and you will succeed because they are. Josh's Frogs has a lot of things, but if you look at their website and their products, they kind of stay in a very specific lane. Like they sell the basics. You have the opportunity to be smaller scale, but sell more exotic stuff, instead of just like almond leaves. You could sell 15 different types of exotic leaves for terrariums. You can sell, a bigger variety of plants. They're so big, they're almost too big for their own shoes, if that makes any sense. You have the means to be, and not that you will forever, stay this size, but you're at a size where you can manage everything. You can be a higher quality, lower output, but higher quality. And it's just, I don't even, you know what you're doing. You don't need to hear my input, dude. But you're
I don't know. I appreciate all input, man.
definitely onto something, man.
I
Oh yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, we've definitely there's been some learning curves and trying to figure out how to ship plants. Winter's been it's been a huge because obviously if anyone's breeding reptiles, you guys know, especially up here in New England, winter
Mm,
from about December to March, super difficult to ship animals out. The timing
mm,
windows are few and far between those months. It sucks, and this
mm.
has been great. Instead of having to save a giant nest egg to get me through those, 3 or 4 months, I'm able to continue this year round without little to no issue with it.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So where do you?
So, go ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jay. I was just gonna ask a broad question of where you see yourself with that aspect in the next 5 years. Where do you see yourself taking Project Jungle in 5 years from now?
It really depends. I mean, if we keep going at the rate we're going, I can see definitely getting more on the plant side. There's unlimited opportunities to expand into plants. The
Mm.
plant market it would be great to dip into, just because I've kind of started as it's almost a second hobby at this point. Is plant collecting. I've started getting some mother plants and then just stuff that I personally find interest in. So it'd be cool to expand that
Um,
market and kind of bridge that gap between animals and plants to the same people.
awesome.
So, I was gonna ask you a question about so YouTubing, right? Can you kind of like walk us through that process of like when you're creating your videos and you're trying to come up with these topics and ideas, like what's that workflow like for you?
So it really, I've kind of evolved, or I guess in my opinion, it's almost been a devolve. So for a while, I did play the like regular YouTube reptile game, which is care guides, enclosure tours, reptile room tours, and I kind of set myself into that. So the topics became pretty easy. There was a point when Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles was popping off with those top fives, and
Mm.
much like every other YouTuber, I checked out which ones did the best and then did my version of that video. There was about a year where I was doing the top fives, and then I've kind of the reason why I started YouTube was because I wanted to have another advertising platform for my business. Obviously, in the 21st century, 2024, social media is the game. You got to play with social media, and I wanted every little outlet being the new guy coming into it. And when I started building the community, I kind of got swept into it. I wanted to build a larger and larger audience. But I feel like at some point, the number doesn't matter much when you're talking about your business and selling stuff. I have a combined 100,000 whatever. I still struggle to sell these crested geckos like everyone else. The number doesn't really matter, and so I kind of stopped focusing on the quantity of my following versus the quality of the community I'm building. So at this point, I kind of just make videos on what I want to make videos about, right? Like creating projects that are coming up. I try to find a way to. Usually, those ideas only last about 3 minutes, so it's about fluffing an extra five for those mid rolls, and then just figuring out a nice, fun title that people will click on. But that's kind of been my stuff for a while. I haven't run out of ideas yet. Usually, breeding season's super easy because there's so many different stuff happening. We're hatching fraps, the leeches are hatching out. We're doing tokays. A lot of stuff is happening. It's in the winter time where when stuff starts to slow down, it becomes a little bit more difficult on continuing to find
Mm.
topics to list that 2 to 3 videos a week.
Mm.
Damn, that's how many you're
Do you
doing
have
a
a
week.
back?
What was that?
I said that's how many you're doing a week. It's about 2 or 3 videos a week.
Yeah, I used to. So, 2020, I was doing about daily to every other day,
Holy shit.
and it wasn't until recently I switched my editing programs to actually using a computer. I use PowerPoint or Power Director 365, I think it's called. So that slowed me down enough, and I just kind of got tired. It was like ruling my life. It was like editing. It was
Oh yeah.
I basically just edited all day every day, and it kind of got old. And I realized I wasn't really, since I stopped playing the YouTube game when it comes to like ad revenue and stuff. I wasn't really. I would make like 5 videos a week. I'd make whatever $500, right? But if I make 2 videos a
Mm.
week, it only goes down to 400. So I'm like, that's so much time I could spend on other avenues of stuff, taking care of stuff, building stuff out, and I'm only losing $100 a month on it. It just didn't seem, the amount of time dedicated to it didn't seem worth it to me in the end.
Mm. Do you have a background in like cinematography or video of any
No,
sort, or is this all something you taught yourself, man?
no, I'm awful with technology. I started
Really?
off my phone. Anyone looking to start YouTube, KindMaster and InShot are the easiest ones to do off your phone. I recorded videos off my phone, and I edited through my phone and eventually a tablet for up until like last year, I think.
It's
So
amazing.
you can grow. You 10, 20. I was at like, I don't know, 25, 30,000. And I never looked at the laptop. I did the fancy editing. You can do all that shit off your phone. You don't need the fancy
That's
stuff. You just
awesome.
need a. I don't know what you need anymore, man. Growing YouTube channels with reptiles, and this year is it's tough stuff.
Oh yeah.
It
Definitely.
is, but I feel like the guys with the, it's just my opinion, but the people with the passion are gonna succeed, right? Like, and you're clearly not to brown nose by any means, but you clearly have a passion, right? Like the guys out there that came in through this big reptile boom, they were just throwing money around. Like I got money to buy crazy morphs and I'm gonna breed them and sell them. They're sitting on those crazy morphs to this day. Like they're sitting there and they're not selling them. The people with the passion are the people that are gonna make it through this slump and they're gonna make it to the top again, man. The passion will carry them on, and it shows in your videos, man. It shows in everything you do, man. You got a sense of humor. You know what you're doing with animals. You're not ashamed to admit if you were wrong or messing up. I mean, very unique, very real platform. I could watch your videos. I watch a lot of them while I'm cleaning all these 200 friggin' gecko cages. And
So I just watched the Armin video, the Armin one you guys
uh,
did, while I was cleaning up tubs.
yeah,
That's what
it's
they're here
cool, man,
for.
and it feels like you're there, man. You know, it's
Yeah.
very unique style, very unique platform, and to hear you do it all by yourself, taught yourself, I mean, that's even more amazing and super inspirational. You know, to kids out there that want to start this and learn and do something. Like it's great for them to hear you say you could do it on your phone, man, and just take action, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, my biggest mistake was just not starting it sooner. Anyone that, even if you haven't produced a thing, that would be the perfect time. Start
Mm,
setting up your foundation of videos and then just getting people excited. If you're like just growing out some babies, you can start your
mm,
Facebook, Instagram, post those progression pictures. You already have, albeit even a small following of people that are consistently watching that progression
mm,
and are invested in that project and invested in yourself. But I've definitely actually seen a big evolution within, I would say, 2023, 2024. We're kind of moving away from like the big breeding whatever or the $100,000 reptile shipment. And I've
mm,
noticed the videos that are doing really good right now are the insane builds, which is incredible to see. There's Oh, I'm so sorry. I cannot remember his name. He's a new guy. He just did a basilisk build. It was an incredible,
Hmm.
like 4x2x3 for a basilisk lizard running water feature. Terra, it's Terra something. Oh, that's gonna kill me. But there's that. Brad's bioactive builds is blowing up for his
mhm,
stuff.
Oh yeah,
We
he's
have
great. I
yeah,
love watching his
Brad
stuff.
is awesome. We had the chance. We did a little group interview not too long ago. Um, Leafy Street came out of nowhere. Now he's like one of the biggest reptile YouTubers that there is right
mm,
now. So it really shows that like the care of the animal and the housing of the animal seems to be taking precedent over the big bucks and then
Oh yeah,
getting
yeah, yeah.
bit by XYZ.
yeah.
So we did
Makes
get a question in
sense.
the chat. Uh, they ask Dakota, do you ever intend to put your YouTube live interviews on like Spotify, Apple, or anything on there so people can listen to it while they on the road or whatever?
I love that we all vape. I've yet to do like in my interview or go on one where there's not someone else. I'm glad I'm not like the odd duck out. I don't, to be honest. It's I don't brand the thing as a podcast. It's not very consistent. It's just I go live every Friday to either hang out or if I have someone I want to talk to about stuff. If you guys saw my last one with Justin, that was incredible. You asked me what I
Oh
want to be
yeah.
doing in the next 5 years. It's what Justin's doing. I really want to make my mark. Crested river dragons. I've really been interested as well. I can't remember the Latin name. I'm sure he said that was the only bad part about that interview is I can't understand Latin very well, so I only knew about
Me
maybe
neither.
half the species he was referring to. But crested river dragons are something I'm definitely openly looking for. And that's just another one of those species, like his some of his tree dragons, where no one's doing it, no one knows how to care for them, no one's breeding them. I want to be the guy that fixes that problem and get some
Yeah.
captive bred availability. That's really where I see the reptile stuff going in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Did you see
I
that
hope
one,
you're
Jay?
right.
He just had Jeff from Legacy on. He
Yeah,
went
yeah. I
to
watched.
right?
Yeah, I watched part of it before I had to leave
It
to
was
go to work and do
long.
some
We
things.
went on for
Yeah, yeah,
almost,
yeah.
I think it was almost 4 hours or something ridiculous. I didn't
He
let, and
could. He could.
he had a show. He was driving up to Pennsylvania. So he's like, hey, I gotta go. I'm about to get 6 hours of sleep before I have to drive.
Dude, he's brilliant, Dakota. That kid, he's brilliant. When it comes to those species, if you ask him about, what he's learned from books versus observation and his own findings, he could literally and needs to start publishing papers. Like his research and knowledge on those horned dragons or lizards, whatever the hell they are, is just insane. Like
Yeah, Colodis. I don't know. The problem, another problem is once you get, and I find this, it's very similar to the tarantula hobby. Any of the rare geckos and lizards, there's no common names for them
Oh
anymore.
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
So you
no.
have to do
yeah.
so. Like the blue tree dragon is the Colodis P. I don't remember the other one.
Mm,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
no.
With the, it's almost like digitalized the face with blue and
It's
black.
incredible. I'll be
Yeah, yeah,
getting
yeah.
those. I wanna. I hopefully very soon, within the next couple of months, I'll be getting a pair from him.
That's a hefty find right there.
Yeah, it's worth it
We'll
though.
say
I
Oh
about
don't.
yeah, definitely.
3 grand, 3 grand for
20.
a.
Yeah, I think
I
it's 2.5 for a
Yeah, it's like
sex baby
25. I saw it
pair.
on Morph Market. Yeah, but with Justin, I think he helped well, he at least put some information into a book that they just did for some South American iguanas. I
Yes.
think it was iguanas, right?
The
Yeah,
the
Amazon
yeah,
iguanas.
the Amazon dwarf iguana.
Yeah,
I can't remember
yeah.
the
So I
Latin
mean,
on it.
he's putting in some kind of literature, or at least he's helping out with that stuff. So
Warriors.
definitely, like like you said, Justin, that dude right there is like with a Cloud Force Agamas, he's
Yeah,
the
that's
man.
how he started out with the Abronias, which I thought was
Yeah, yeah,
really interesting because, as you guys know, they're super hard because they come from the cloud forest. You really have
yeah,
to have a cool down period to get them to breed, and so it was really interesting seeing that he had success with that and then moved on to other stuff. But I feel like that's what the problem is with these guys. You know, the Justins, the Armins that are breeding these rare species of lizards is they just don't have the time in the day to they're too busy proving stuff out and figuring out the formula to like sit down. I told him he needs to start a YouTube channel and
yeah.
just do
Yeah,
something like this, just talk about it, just so that
no,
information's out there in the world.
you
Oh yeah,
know.
definitely. So so let's talk because I mean, you say you got a big ass collection, right? Like how many do you think you have in total right now? Like just off the top of the dome,
It's between like 100 and 150 right now with all the
right?
babies.
Okay, so how do you find a to be able to balance creating videos, managing the collection, and all those other responsibilities in between?
Good question.
I'm on a very strict schedule, and what sucked was I had like an awful period where usually when you have to vend a show when it's stuff like this, I'm spending about 3 days, packing substrates, plants, the all the other products that go into it. And then, of course, I think I cupped 40 geckos and then about 60 cups of isopods and springtails. So that
Yeah.
kind of some cleaning stuff gets pushed aside for that. And then immediately when I got back, I ended up catching COVID, which
Oh shit.
knocked me out for a couple of days. So it's one of those things where if you adhere to a strict schedule, it's very easy. You're only doing about 20 to 30 cages a day, right? A lot of stuff is bioactive. That takes the cleaning work out of most of these things. So it's usually just spraying and feeding. But yeah, I was just saying earlier to in that Justin thing, you're out for one day and it just throws a wrench in that gear. And you
Everything
really,
builds
Sure
up.
I just
does.
spent like the last 5 days catching up for missing 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
Are
So
you
with the
vending again?
vending, yeah.
I
Go
am.
ahead.
I'm back finally. I figured out how
Awesome,
to
awesome.
do it without feeling like death. So we just did dairy. Um, we're hitting up the Massachusetts Herpetological Society. They put on a show in Mass, and then I
Nice.
Nice.
might do Springfield in December. December is a weird. I'm not a huge fan of the
Mm,
venue spot for traffic and parking reasons, and I feel like December 2nd. It's one of those things where it's going to go one of two ways, right? No one's going to buy because they're buying Christmas presents, or people are going to
yeah.
be buying their Christmas presents there. So I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't know which way it's going to go, and so I haven't made up my mind if I'm going to check out that show or not.
You ever come down to White Plains? You ever been to White Plains show?
I
Last time I
haven't.
saw you was Florifauna 22 was the last time I saw you personally at a show.
Yeah, I missed going there. I missed Florifauna, and I also missed one thing that I think that'll be my biggest regret in life was I missed the Animal Con when Brian was still around, which was a huge bummer. But I had that was a rough time. I don't remember what the
Mm,
time period, but I remember like I was struggling to just pay the bills, let alone figure out a way to make 4 days a
yeah.
trip to Florida. But I had a bunch of it sucked because I had a bunch of awesome, Tyler, Chandler, Iguanaland, Gatorland, and then Animal Con as well. We were gonna do like this giant thing, and it just didn't pan out. And unfortunately, I kind of missed my chance to see Brian for the last time, which was a giant
You
bummer.
did meet him though, right? Didn't I see you on a? You did a podcast with
Yeah,
Brian though,
yeah.
right?
We
You
we
met
did a
Brian.
podcast a couple of years ago. We did meet
Yeah,
him. Absolutely
that's that.
amazing guy. We our hotel was an hour away from the Riptarium. My rental didn't end up working out, so we had to pay like $80 to Uber there,
Ooh.
and we were just gonna pay
Ouch.
$80 to Uber back. And he decided to leave and drive us back, so a 2-hour round
Nice.
trip back and forth. And he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Like out of all the things Brian has to do in his day, he decided to take 2 hours out of it to drive us back, and I just got to hear all of his amazing stories. It was an incredible time.
Huge loss, man. This dude blew me away, man. You talk about like, I watched him like everybody, millions of people every morning. You know what I'm saying? Every morning I would watch him for years, man. And damn, man, it almost still sometimes doesn't seem real when I see a video that'll pop up with him in it. I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna meet him one day, man. I'm gonna go and shoot the shit with him. Nah, fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like it was like my inspiration for the longest time. As I would, especially once we got the diagnosis, I was like, if fucking Brian can get out of bed and do this shit with all that he has going on, like I can get out of bed and film a goddamn YouTube video and edit it. So that
Yeah.
was a big inspiration. Still to this day, man, it just feels the YouTube space for reptiles feels different with them. It's a different atmosphere. It feels like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you were in the
Yeah.
same circle too, in the creator loop, you guys. Yeah, man. At least you experienced that, man. There will not be many people, and from here on out, no one's ever going to say that you'd be able to do that. You did it, man. You are on film with him. That's yeah.
It was an incredible experience. I'm super happy that that'll just be there forever, so I can always go back and check out that conversation.
Nice. So let me ask you some for at least for the YouTube channel, right? What is like your long-term goals for that?
Long-term goals for YouTube. I feel like in 2025, I'm been planning a couple of stuff, but it's just about trying to find the time to do everything. But I have definitely heavily considering continuing on what I'm doing with Dakota Blue Exotics and just filming what I want to film and just what I'm passionate about versus what YouTube wants to see. That'll be more of a community building. People are interested in my project, seeing the progression of everything. That'll be the place for it, and I'm thinking about moving. I've had this idea for so many years. Everyone tells me not to do it, but I think it's a good idea. Is splitting that bioactive portion and making that its own YouTube channel. So maybe posting once to twice a month starting out, and then as that that channel grows, becomes able to be another monetization avenue, I can start working a little bit more on
Yeah.
that. But that one really focusing on like the YouTube stuff, making the editing prime, and honestly, I'll probably make that a faceless channel instead of me being the star. I want it to be about the bioactive vivariums and building bioactive vivariums.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, hell, I mean, Dave Kaufman, that man, he has like 3 or 4 channels.
Yeah,
So
he's got too many channels.
yeah. I only
But
watched the one. I was like, yeah, all right, cool. Give me the reptiles, your
got
haunted
a
stuff,
little.
I'm cool with, whatever. And then, but yeah, no, but yeah, like that faceless stuff. Yeah, I know. What the hell is that?
This is a basement spider.
Oh,
That's the one thing about having your stuff down in the basement.
oh yeah,
So many. I just so I have a 3x2x5 grow tent where I keep all my plants, right? And I guess a spider decided to go in there, and I never found it. And it must have laid an egg sac because one day I opened that.
oh,
I thought I had spider mines for a second, and I was freaking out because there's like hundreds of plants in there, and so that would have been a
yeah,
disaster. But upon closer inspections, none of those, the tiny bugs were on the plants themselves. They were all like on the lights, or like there. I had this giant web of like hundreds of them. So there was hundreds of these baby spiders in this grow tent. It was insane. So it took me a while to get them all swept up. I still kept a few in there just for like the fungus gnats and stuff. It's a nice little natural predator to
Oh yeah.
get rid of that, or a little
just get some house
what's sort of
geckos, man.
preventative care for the plants.
Yeah, just get some house geckos. They'll take care of all that
I
shit.
thought about that. I thought about putting like maybe taking some morning geckos out of this tank and just setting, because they'll have everything they need: water, food, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I got house geckos all over my apartment that I literally bought them and just said go. And then and it's like I said, I live in an apartment, so I don't know what the people upstairs do. I don't know how dirty they are. So you get roaches or whatever. So I have geckos everywhere. Like I was like every Sunday when I'm doing my sweeping and mopping, I see nothing but gecko poop on the ground. I'm like, oh, they're eating. No, they catch loose crickets. Like if there's some kind of a roach coming through, they're gone. So
I did that
definitely out.
with in my old facility. I had a pair of golden geckos. Someone at the
Oh, yeah.
show just handed me a pair of golden geckos because my buddy wanted them, but he only wanted captive bred, so I got stuck with them. So I released them out and then again the building's like, it was like 30 by 60. It was this gigantic place. And
Yeah.
then I had a couple of tokays running around as well, and you could always see tokays usually pick one spot to poop in. It's amazing for cleanup because you just got to clean up that one spot. And so when I'd go behind the enclosures, I could always see like, oh, that's where the tokays are hiding because there's a bunch of poop right here. And then I ended up finding golden gecko eggs every now and then around the place. It was really
Nice.
cool.
That's cool.
Nice.
So speaking of the geckos, with everything that you've been through and the whole evolution of Dakota Blue, what made you really go down the path of geckos? I remember when you had the tegus and you had, I mean, I guess you do have another bearded dragon now, but what made you, I mean, Tokay specifically, but what made you decide to build this around geckos?
Yeah, space is the giant thing, especially now that we don't have. I mean, I had such a bummer about that house because I had giant. We only used the upper portion of that building.
Mm,
So with the Tegu project, like that was going to be a huge thing because we had another
yeah.
again 30 by 60 foot mark to put
Hmm.
new. It's a lot bigger than 30 by 60. I don't know. I don't remember the exact dimension, but gigantic. It was a refurbished barn that was in a. It was a refurbished barn that then got refurbished to a garage that was then refurbished into a grow op that business failed, and so then I just went into reptile shortly after, as that's like the grow stuff failed, and so I decided to launch DBCB Exotics as a little bit to get some side income. But
Hmm.
yeah, that was gonna be a huge thing. I really wanted to do the giant lizards, but when we came down here, I had to get rid of most of them. I have a pair of tegus left, and I think that's like my only big lizard right now. Everything else, I couldn't get rid of the tegus because like that was my dream reptile when I was growing up in this hobby. So we still have the one pair, but geckos, they're smaller. It's a nice little compact area. I find interest in them. There's such a variety of geckos. I plan to start like when I wanted to be the big breeder. I want to do specifically kind of like Richie from the Gecko King, how he's just has all these varieties, different geckos. I kind of wanted to emulate that, but as I keep going and evolving, I've never stuck with one plan. I always evolve into something that I personally find better, in my opinion. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like the new rare lizard thing. So I'll always stick with lizards. I did the snakes for a while, and I can't find a snake species that it really like gets me excited as the lizards and
Yeah.
geckos. But that's just something that I love. I'm not a handleable, have to hold all my pets thing. I rarely hold any of my reptiles. It's not really why I do it. So geckos just seemed to be a really good option for that at the time.
Nice.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. Have you no, I was scrolling Bourque Market, right? And I saw this wild caught giant locality toke. Do you know anything about this?
Uh, I don't want to be mean because I don't know who posted it.
Oh, I could tell you.
Oh, okay. Tell me. Tell me, and I'll tell you if
Nerd.
it's bullshit. What?
Nerd. Nerd.
Oh, oh. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I just it's the first time I've ever
Fuck.
seen this. So it's the first time I've ever seen this. So I was like, is this a
Probably
true
wasn't
thing?
Kevin that put it though, right? It probably wasn't Kevin's not the one doing their morph market
No,
posting.
it's a
It's
wild
probably
caught one. Yeah, it's a wild caught. Like what it from what says,
So I
it's
don't know. I don't know what Nerd does. I don't know. I'm
yeah,
not trying to launch any beef at Nerd, but what I will
N-
say, because this is a very common practice,
yeah,
is a lot of stuff is being either misidentified with mutations. Again, not Nerd. I'm just generally speaking
yeah,
when you go into the Tokay section of Morph Market, right? A lot of stuff
yeah.
is being misidentified. I've seen so many like the Candy Dot Paradox stuff was crazy. In fact, actually, Nerd was only the only ones I saw that
yeah,
was an actual Candy Dot Paradox, but there were a lot of others where I'm like, this is a candy dot. Like, where do you see this? Isn't a double visual. Where do you see paradoxing in this? So I feel like it's either unintentional mistakes or it's malicious intent to
yeah. As I said, it was the first time I've ever
upsell
seen it. So
geckos.
I was wondering because I haven't been, like I said, I haven't really paid attention to tokeis in a minute since I sold mine off. And I was like, okay, what? I mean, they get how larger do they get? Because it just says it imported from Indonesia where the tokeis are larger than others. So I was like, interesting.
I don't know if they're like trying to state that like versus like the Florida populations versus
Yeah,
the Indonesian population. I'm not sure. And
yeah,
again, I'm not when I speak with this, I'm not like speaking directly at Nerds post, but
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah. No,
general, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of normals, just normal ass Toki geckos, and it's like this one's high red, this one's
yeah,
blue
yeah, yeah.
granite. I'm like, okay, well, blue
I've seen
granite
some of that.
is a blue gecko with black spots and dark eyes, and this is a regular ass Tokay, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I was always wondering. Like I just saw it today. I was like, what the hell is this? So I was like, I just wondered how big it actually got because it was like I said, it just says giant. I was like, what's going on over here?
We definitely, I mean, they come in big. I still have my Indo import over there that I'm trying to hand tame, and it's the biggest. I got it from Josh over at CPX. It's
Okay.
I don't understand. I think high red is more of like a phenotypical line bred trait
Yeah.
instead. So the super red, right, was a genetic mutation, and then high red is just a more red animal, right? It's gonna have better
Mm.
splotching. The splotching is gonna start connecting into itself versus a polka dot
Yeah.
pattern. So I haven't really tried much to do anything with that project, but I just love the male because he was gigantic, and now I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Mm.
hand tame him out because I guess the golden shine of Bert being my friendly Tokay, it's worn off, and now people are like, well, you can only tame one Tokay, Dakota. So I took him off of breeding and I gave him a couple of months. I'm like, I'm gonna tame this thing out and show you guys that you can do it with anything.
What
Yeah.
so I just got my first gecko as a kid was a Tokay, man, back in the 80s, right? And I loved them, man. But all these years later, I'm 40 years old now. I just after watching your videos, bro, and interviewing Jimmy, I set out on this little path and I went to Richie and I got a Tokay now. I went and bought a little baby Tokay from Richie a week ago. What it's a 100% het albino, which I don't think shows anything visually different because she looks just normal to me. But what's an actual albino Tokay look like? Are they white and pink eyes and stuff? I've never seen an albino Tokay.
So there's right now three different lines of albinism with and I believe Josh's. You guys talked to Jimmy about this. I saw one of those clips. Josh's platinum seemed to be
Oh,
um
platinum
the only
albino.
mutation that I found that has a visual heterozygous
Yeah.
markers. So usually everything else it just all looks normal. But for some reason his you can see it with my het platinum girl is she's like really yellow. And I mean like so much so that she just looks like a yellow spotted, and then that just gets enhanced with the visual form of that instead of the heterozygous form. As far as
Okay.
albinism, so there's three distinct lines. Alejandro's line, which I believe Richie has Alejandro's lines. I'm not 100% sure. Um, there's someone else that I can't remember. And then Logan just recently proved out a different line of albinism. So it kind of depends on which one, and then which, if you're getting T positive, T negative. I believe all of Richie's are T positive right now. So, in my opinion, it just kind of makes a brighter Tokay gecko. I haven't gotten too much into
Really?
him. I love Logan's line. His lines are really cool. It's a really crisp, bright gecko. So I think I'll be getting some pairs from him soon,
Sure,
either
it's
with his caramel
100%
albino.
het albino.
Yes, it's probably going to be the T positive, which just kind of like brightens everything up. Just looks like a very bright gecko.
So it's just the blue then. All right. I mean, I could care less either way. I'm just curious about him now. Once I get something, I got to learn everything about him. And there's only so many places I can go and watch your videos. And Jimmy really doesn't make too many videos, so it's kind of like I watch your videos for gecko for Tokay content, man.
Yeah, I haven't gone too much in the albinism stuff because it's still. If you guys check out Alejandro, he's just recently posted a lot of albinos. They look really
Really.
great as babies, the visual form, and then as they grow, kind of like with ball pythons, I've noticed that
Mm.
I don't want to diminish because they're still a cool gecko. Like Alejandro produces nice albinos, but it just kind of like diminishes, but kind of the wow factor of how
Yeah.
bright the
Right.
baby is. It kind of dulls out, I guess I would say.
Mm. So what are your plans with the Tokays? What's your future look like for the Tokays, man? I mean, not for nothing, but as far as social media goes and having an online presence with the species, I mean, you're the go-to guy, man. Like, where are you taking Tokays, man?
Yeah, people hate me. There's like three Tokay because there's only like five Tokay gecko people. But he does a handful. I don't want to say just five, but yeah, there's like a good two or three people that can't stand me because I'm the asshole that got popular with Tokay geckos. But
Hey.
combos are my thing. Combinations are the next big step we're doing. So next, yeah, next season we're going to be starting a lot of combinations. We'll be doing first off, I will be doing some visual Diablos. I got a Het Girl on the way for the visual I imported in. So we'll have visual Diablos next year, reduced Het Candy Dots, and then double hets for Candy Paradox because I really like that transformation. And there
Hmm.
does seem to be again with these newer morphs that are coming in. I mean, candies have only come in for the last couple of years. It feels like So we don't know too much, and we really don't know a lot about combinations, how they play with each other. There's talk that Candy and Paradox may be allelic with each other. So combining two, you might be able to actually just skip the regular heterozygous to heterozygous and make
Oh.
visuals that way. So I'm really interested to try to prove that out with some of the pairs. We'll be doing two different line pairs of Paradox to Candy and then Paradox to Candy, and seeing if it doesn't prove out, then I have unrelated double hets I can pair together. But if it
Mm.
does, that would be really cool to get some visual stuff right off the mark.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's awesome, dude. There's so much that's not known about these geckos. They've been in captivity for so long that I think that's one main reason they're taking off right now, dude. They are to the moon, these things, man. Like, and I'd imagine the allure and the excitement of the unknown, right? Like, I mean, we were talking to Jimmy and I was talking to Richie, and apparently, and I'm sure you know this, but just because there's like two lines of something, like for hypothetically speaking, the albinos, you can have these two albinos from two different lines, and they'll do nothing with each other. Like they do nothing with each other. They have to, not every gene. How did Jimmy word it, Jason? Like not every gene
Not
is
compatible.
compatible with
It's
the
yeah. It's kind of like
different
leopard
line or
geckos,
something.
right? When you have like
Yeah.
rainwater, tremper, and I forgot the other one. If you try to put any of
Oh, the
those two
leopards.
together,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and you get normals, right? So
yeah. Yellow
is it the
spots.
same thing? Is it
Yellow
the same
spots seem to
thing?
do that, where you can't,
Okay.
Okay,
if just because you have two yellow spots. I
there you go.
believe I
That's what
believe
Jimmy.
Josh's platinums are the only yellow spots that are. No, that's not
Mhm.
true. There's another line. Catherine, she recently produced a yellow spotted gecko. So there's two lines of yellow spots right now. Granite
Okay.
is another one that still seems to be a bit of a mystery. My buddy Logan, M95 Genetics, he's been
Okay.
working a lot and learning a lot from Denise. That's kind of been the Denise has been the granite person to go to. She's really, I mean,
Is
multiple
Lucky Foot?
generations and years of trying to figure out the granite. But
Hmm.
after Logan learned a lot about her research, he kind of has this hypothesis that the granite mutation is chromosome linked to the X chromosome, which is very interesting. So I'm trying to play with it a little bit. So potentially, because you don't have what would normally would be called like het granite, right? It's if the gene itself is marked with the X chromosome, then with that being said, the males would all have the potential to evolve into a granite, because when you hatch out granites, they hatch out as normals. Then over the course of about 6 to 2 years, 6 months to 2 years, they will slowly evolve. The colors will darken, their red spots turn to
Oh,
black. And then at that point, they have another potential to evolve from granite to pied or leucistic. If there's debate on what the actual gene should be called. But so all of those genes are like tightly connected to each other. So it's a definitely an
interesting.
interesting concept. He can explain it a lot better. I've only been able to understand about half of it. He's a very big genetics nerd, so he
Hmm.
has a much better understanding at this stuff. But I'm interested to see if what he's saying is could be proven out right. It would mean that the males that I currently are hatching will transform after about 6 months to 2 years, and the females have then the potential to be heterozygous or nothing at all. It just depends on if they got that X-linked gene chromosome in them.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And
Are
again,
people line breeding?
I'm butchering that explanation. He can do it a lot better than I can.
Yeah. Are people line breeding tokays? Do they line breed them like put fathers to daughters and type stuff? Are they doing that with these? Oh, they are.
Yeah. So with the granite thing, definitely. And that's just to try to prove, because at first my hypothesis was almost the albinism thing with leopards, that only certain lines can go through it, but that does not seem to be the case now. So
Okay.
it does have to be a thing where you need to line breed these traits in, and I believe Denise is definitely getting very very close to having a readily reproducible granite pairing going on. I believe we're like one or two generations off to
Mhm.
actually being readily able to produce. When you get those babies, all of those babies will eventually turn that granite to pied. We're definitely she's again.
Exciting.
I don't know what the word is. Talk about her enough with the granite gene, because she has done fantastic work on it.
Awesome.
Nice. No, so with the actually, I want to kind of get back to these anoles. So how are you actually setting these ones up, and like how quick are they to actually breed?
So we just got in all the stuff. I just got a giant actually with that in that Justin interview at that time I had a pallet of these enclosures being dropped
Oh
off to
shit.
my door. So after again that happened that went on to like 11, so at 11 at night I'm like moving enclosures inside. But we just took on a I think I can spoil it. I don't think they would mind. We just took on a sponsorship with Exoterra, which I am super excited
Oh shit!
Oh
to get into
shit!
that.
Congratulations on that one, man.
Yeah, that was a
Oh
really
yeah,
cool thing. Like one of the big dogs in the reptile game noticed
Yeah.
me, which was
that's
really
awesome.
cool. So we got a bunch of their new LED UVBs, and their I asked for a lot of their 12 by 18s, and that will be the null setup. So right now we just have
Nice.
them in temporary 8 by 12s, all
Okay.
separated. That's just to get them acclimated to how I do things here, and make sure they're eating and
Yeah.
good. And then once they are breeder ready, which most of them are, I think there's one girl, the leopard anole girl. She still seems a little small. I might wait until next season, but all the others are good to go. So as soon as I build those out and put them in, they'll all be going in 12 by 18s, planted vivariums.
Nice.
Nice. So I got a kind of off the reptile path question here. It's about sponsorships. How does sponsorships work in someone in like your position shoes? What type of relationship do you guys have? What do you have to give them? What do they give you? Like what would, without breaking any rules or anything, like what does a sponsorship for someone your size entail?
So it's really dependent. I've noticed that my reptile specific sponsorships are very relaxed. It's very nice. I love working with all the reptile people because they're not really like boom, 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 boom.
Mm.
There's only been one. I don't want to like besmirch
Yeah.
anybody, but there's only been
Nah,
one
nah,
where
nah.
like the contract, I only did one run with them because the contract, it was like I had to do this, I had to be
Mm.
this at this time. It was very constrained on like what I could talk about, what I couldn't,
Okay.
and I didn't really enjoy it, so I only
Mm.
did one run with them.
That's
But
what I was
all of the
curious
others I
about.
continue to do is just it not really for the money part. It's just I enjoy the
Yeah.
company and I like the company. But
Oh yeah.
so with those guys, it seems to be very easy. It might be a little bit of a some of these sponsorships I've just like happened upon by accident.
Mm.
Like it's just like random people add me on Facebook and I'll start talking to them, and then all of a sudden I think this is how my Morph Market sponsorship went. Is I was talking to someone about it was some sort of reptile, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, I'm the lead director, director person for a Morph Market. Would you like a sponsorship?" I'm like, "Yeah."
God damn. Just
Very
like that.
cool.
If you guys
Very
know
cool.
the bearded bug guy, I believe that's his title, the bearded bug guy. He has the
I think
grow
so.
tent with
Yeah.
the Japanese beauty snake, and he does a lot of vivarium stuff as well. He's the guy from EXO. I had a great conversation with him. We talked a little bit, and we were able to work out a deal. So a lot of the reptile stuff, it does kind of seem like a little bit more networking instead of going.
Mhm.
I have done stuff. I do a lot of emailing and kind of reaching out for
Yeah.
certain sponsorships depending on what I need out of the company. But so far, I haven't had very many reptile people reach out for that. So for that, it's been my
Mhm.
mark of trying to get people in, trying to send those emails out and get their attention to see if they see the value in my stuff. And I've done a few off-brand stuff. I don't do it too often because I don't like it. I don't like there was one I did an energy mind drink thing. I can't remember what I
Mhm.
did. I really needed the money. It was the dead of winter. I wasn't selling geckos. I was like, oh man, 500 that pays like 1 month of electricity. I need this. But
Mhm.
their contract sucked. I don't care if they talk. I'll never take another sponsorship with them. But their contract was awful. It was so heavily constrained. I needed this talking point, that talking point, this talking point. It had to be in this, and they were very shady of like, you don't have to say it's a sponsorship. I'm like, well, against YouTube's TOS, I do have to disclose it's a fucking sponsorship, brother. It was
Yeah.
weird. There's a lot of shady
Interesting.
stuff, so it's kind of you gotta look out for that kind of stuff.
That's interesting. It's a whole nother world that people, from my position or our position out here, don't ever really get to see. Like you guys, not that you work for them, but you guys have a working relationship. I was just always curious, like what do they like? What would they ask of you? Do you have to promote like with Exoterra, for example? Do they ask you to do anything other than like show their cages and use their products? Like, do you have to like have talking points like you said? Do they make you like put on mini commercials or advertise, or do they just use your platform to show their products in use type of stuff?
So I think with reptile specific designs, they're a lot more kind of in the loop of what goes on with reptile YouTube. The mindful energy drink company isn't watching Dakota Blue Exotics on YouTube. They have no idea
Mm,
what I do. It's all numbers game to them. But for a lot of these reptile sponsorships, they understand like what my content's about, how I do stuff. So they're very
okay,
laxed
okay,
on.
okay.
They just want authenticity to be the number one thing.
Yeah.
So
I think it's great, man. That's awesome, dude. That's huge. Exoterra is huge, man. That's awesome.
yeah, very very excited for him. I hope we can. I hope I can have a flourishing relationship with them because I do dig Exoterra.
Well,
I think I have one that's not in EXO with front opening, and I think this one. I don't remember even where I got this, but everything else, all the stuff behind me besides that one, that this whole row is
mm,
Exoterra. I've used them for quite a long time.
yeah, I love them,
Yeah,
man. I mean, despite what people say about the weight and whatnot, I mean, listen, we're grown ass men, man. We shouldn't be complaining about a couple pounds, right? Like the fucking enclosures are badass, man. Like they're incredible enclosures. I guess PVCs are awesome, and I'm not knocking any PVC company. I obviously have my eyes on a couple, but when it comes to choice, I always choose the glass Exoterras, man. I think that, I guess if you put the plastic on top, PVC holds humidity, I suppose, better for certain
Yeah.
species. But for someone that keeps a variety of species and talking about enclosures and someone that has both, what do you think about glass versus PVC?
listen, don't talk to me about heavy enclosures until you put 50 pounds of drainage layer and substrate in. I just recently swapped these two enclosures around, and oh my god. um, I've always been of the mindset that a box is a box. I don't see. I can
Yeah.
understand that. Yeah, PVC can hold humidity a little bit better, but most PVC companies are doing screen tops, so it kind of
Oh, they are.
diminishes that. At
No, I
least the
mean,
one
well,
Dubia.
you
I
you
guess
could
if you get
do
into like
custom
AP
stuff.
cages aren't. Yeah, Animal Plastics isn't. Vision aren't. But if we're talking like the big dogs do seem to be Zen and Dubia when it comes to like mass production of
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
the PVC enclosures. You also don't have to wait 7 months to get any of those. That's
yeah.
a
Nubia has those awesome adjustable vents, though. I can't
yeah,
say
yeah.
anything
The
about them. I
the
love
vents
that.
thing are cool.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like PVC versus glass. I guess like you said, it's the determination right there, right? Like all my arid stuff can go in glass stuff because I don't have to worry about it. But like I said, I live in Arizona, so I'm dry as hell over here. So like my PVC stuff, so I got like Europlatus in there. I got Chihuahuas. I'll probably have um Cerdodactylus in there pretty soon, and probably like cave geckos. So I can't do glass with some of that stuff, but like for my Stropharis, glass all day. Like I just bought it like another 12 by 12 by 18 because I was moving geckos around because I got like a huge ass shipment from I just got a shipment from Richie. So I got what the hell? Yeah, so I had to go move some ciliaris around, had to move intermediates around, start taking stuff apart and utilizing that stuff, utilizing PVCs for all my stuff that requires a lot more humidity. Because like I get my stuff customly made where I don't have screen tops on most of my PVCs. So easy. It like humidity in those things like one spray like a couple times a week it stays really high. But
Mm.
stuff that has the like the glass, my the humidity just dissipates like within like a day.
Yeah, I
So
tell you, you
yeah.
throw some saran wrap on that bitch. I got saran wrap on all. You good? I did my
Yeah,
morning geckos. I just covered the whole top with saran wrap, and the plants like exploded. It created a cool greenhouse effect where
yeah,
you didn't have to
Oh,
miss
yeah.
that often because all the humidity would like condensate, then run off, and it started creating like its literally own mini ecosystem in there.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. What's his Bill Strand does that with the rep breezes. He wraps them in like window wrap, which is just,
Yeah.
pretty much bigger saran wrap, and he has great success with those things, man. That's awesome. That's cool. How do you, Jay, with your PVC, you put lights inside of them then? If you got no screen on the top, how do you
Yeah,
have the
yeah,
lights inside?
yeah. I just drill it all inside. Yeah. it just depends on, like I said, like Chihuahuas. Like I said, they got one of them has like the VivTech bulb, so that wasn't too much of a problem, and then the other one has like a Zoom Ed light in there, so that one was a little bit more difficult, but it's nothing that's a couple screws are not going to handle. Just had a comment on here. Marine Corps is like, man, he just set up a 36-36-24 EXO for one big girl moving from downstairs to upstairs. So yeah, it's a pain in the ass to trying to move that shit.
Man, I moved the last time I moved everything. I have a couple of ammoplastics enclosures. That's why I made that 7 month comment. But I moved a couple of 6x2x2s upstairs by
Oof,
myself, and that was the
good
moment
lord.
where I now like forever have a herniated disc in my back. And it's like
God
it's
damn.
been years of like there was a point where like I almost couldn't work anymore because it was so bad. I found like the gym and actually like trying to strengthen that lower back muscle has helped it profusely. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
well, don't lift heavy, and you try to find a buddy or something. Even I know that
Yeah.
I believe you said that was a girl, not a guy. But don't be a big macho man and move the 6x2 by yourself. You will be in immense pain for the rest of your life.
God
Jeez.
damn. Go ahead, Ant. I know you got some.
No, of course I do. I got all kinds of
Yeah, go
questions,
ahead.
man.
Go ahead, bro.
What so when you do these, when you take your plans with the mountain horn dragons and is that what those called, right? The ones that Justin has mountain horn. No, what are those called? Are they mountain horn dragons?
The crested ones that you're talking about?
Yeah, is that what they are? Crested mountain dragons.
Which ones?
The
The ones
ones you
that
want.
Oh,
yeah,
the Crested
Crested
River
River Dragon or
Dragon.
something? Yeah.
Crested River
Yeah, it's like
dragons.
a
There we go.
blue lizard with orange polka dots going on, and it almost does look like it's like I don't know if it's a subspecies of the mountain horns, but it definitely does have a similar appearance to them.
Are they they lay do they lay eggs or are they live bears?
They lay eggs.
They do. Do you have any species that give live birth? Do you have
No,
anything that does?
the first ones I am ever gonna do is going to be the Sri Lankan pygmy lizards from Justin. So I'll be getting
Oh,
the
Okay.
colloidus
Collodi's
and then
Dumbara?
those
Okay. Okay.
as
Okay.
well. So it'll be interesting. It'll be my first experience with live birth.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I'm curious, man. I always love talking to people, and you know, we haven't had the opportunity to talk to many people that have had too many live bearing species, but I always think it's amazing, man. And a reptile gives the live birth, man. I think it's just insane. So,
Oh
what's
yeah.
the plan with the new Cal stuff? If you're going into all these other things and down these other avenues, do you plan on keeping like a small group of new Cal stuff, or what's your plan with that? And I know at one point you had a whole bunch of guards, a whole bunch of other new Cal stuff other than the crested stuff.
Yeah, so I'm cutting cresteds about 90%. Um,
Mm,
there's 3 pairs. I might cut it down to 2. I think I need to. I'm always sentimental with my stuff, but at this point, I'm like,
mm,
I always like, oh no, these will like make cool babies. I'm like, why do I need to make cool crested
mm.
gecko babies? There's no point to make cool crested
Uh,
geckos. So 2 to 3 pairs of cresteds. My issue with the gargoyle geckos at this point is that I recently took in the reason why I have so many gargoyles is I took in a collection from a buddy of mine
mm,
that is having some major health issues. And so I need to confer. So the deal was I get free, 20 free gargoyles and we split
yeah,
baby profits 50-50. That was the deal I made with him. So I need to talk to him and see where his head at. If he wants me to, if we move these to maybe someone else's collection that is passionate about gargoyles and wants to keep going, or if he'd rather me personally sell them and we split the money with
mm,
that way. I haven't talked too much with him about that yet, but the plan is to really, really heavily downsize those 2 species,
okay,
and then I want to get rid of the rack system. I hate that rack system. I built it myself. I'm not a carpenter. You guys know how that ended up. Not good. But I next year in 2025, I'll be looking for about 10 to 12. Maybe it's either gonna be 18 by 24s or there was a company that does 16 by 21 or something like that, or like 17 by 21 or something. So I want to do that and again do planted vivariums because I don't want stuff. It always boggles my mind that there's this weird double standard in the community with keeping versus breeding, and it seems so ass
mm,
backwards to me. If you're keeping, you need higher standards. You shouldn't be using racks if you're just keeping as pets. You need like stuff like I have behind myself, stuff as you have behind
mm,
yourself. But if you're breeding, The standards can be
Mm,
cut, the corners can be cut because you are making money off of those animals. It blows my mind on, it makes no sense. I don't like it, and I can't change how other people do things. I can't change how the hobby operates and what the standards are,
mm.
but what I can do is showcase that you can still have a successful business while keeping your animals properly in nice, aesthetically pleasing enclosures.
Absolutely. Those are all breeding pairs of Chihuahuas, man. Those are
There you
all
go.
breeding groups of Chihuahuas, man, and fully planted glass terrariums, man. I agree with you, man. I do use bins. I know it sounds, ambiguous, but I mean it is ambiguous, but they're grow out stuff, I'm not trying to justify it, but I have smaller things that don't necessarily need a fully blown planted terrarium quite yet, and I'm still up in the air whether I'm going to keep these babies or not, or what's going on with them. And but I agree with you. I think that it's awesome that you're doing that. You're showing that you can keep these things and fully planted things, and it's breeding or keeping. We should, in theory, really strive for the best that we can give them all around, right? It's not about our convenience. It shouldn't be about our convenience. I mean, it's to a degree, I guess, another ambiguous topic, right? Like, you have to be able to have a system in what you can maintain. But then that goes into, do you have too much? Do you have too many animals? If you can't maintain them, if you can't maintain an environment for them to live properly, do we have too many? Could go on for hours about that
It's
alone too.
number now. I am not one of these, far bioactive Nazi extremists where
Mm,
everything. I still use rack systems. I still use
mm,
bins for babies. I believe racks and bins are a tool
mm,
you can use, especially for a temporary measure as an animal's
yeah.
growing up or an animal that will be here temporarily. It doesn't make too
Mhm,
much sense to continue doing stuff like that. Of course, species dependent, but with New Caledonian, they
mm,
completely fine in those setups. But again, as a temporary or grow out measure, I have no problems with that. It's when we're putting, bin or rack on rack these. Uh, I could again, yeah, I could also go on for hours. It's funny, my mindset has become it's kind of done a complete 360, whereas before I was like the new keeper and like racks are evil. If you can't take care of if you can have all those animals in nice enclosures, then you shouldn't be keeping those animals. And I started breeding, and I was like, no, I have a higher IQ. I see the bigger picture of stuff. Breeding,
mm,
that it will collapse market prices, and I found over recently that it's 90, not all, I would say all of it is copium. People are just coping about stuff because at the end of the day,
mm,
man, all these ball pythons and these tiny they live in burrows, so they like that. But having a thing where the snake itself can't stretch out completely, um there's 60,000 ball pythons on morph market. I think the market can take a cut, and if you
yeah.
really if you can't provide any of that space for that animal, well, the species is going to be just fine if you're not
Yeah.
breeding 100 and maybe you're breeding just 10. I believe the ball python community is going to be okay with that.
Mm.
And if the,
Very
if the price
wide.
if the price of these species go up, then the price of these species go up, man. That's just the thing. It seems when we talk about rack systems as full-time breeder setups, these tubs, cutting corners and everything like that, you cannot give me an answer for or justification for why you're doing that is for the animal's benefit, not yourself.
Mhm.
Oh, it makes things easier for me. I can get a better system. Well, that's great, man. But if at the end of the day, the only thing that the animal is being detrimentally deprived of is the fact that it's easier for you or that you can make more money, well, what's the
Mm.
point for the animal?
You're absolutely right. You said it best when you said they're a tool. There's a time and a place. They are a tool. For to achieve a specific goal. But no, you're spot on with that, man. I mean, even it always blows my mind when we both have had and deal with some crested geckos, right? And there's you see how many they are out there. I mean, we're talking 2 eggs in a clutch. These ball pythons are dropping how many eggs in a clutch? Like there is so many ball, all for one morph, right? Like guys will pair up certain genetics to try to hit one snake out of 10. Like what happens to all the other animals, man. They wind up in bins, right? Because they weren't what they were shooting for. So they wind up in, I guess, a
Yeah,
pet
freezer.
home, or
we
unfortunately,
gotta
I'd imagine they do.
Oh
we
yeah,
gotta
I hear it all the
remember
time.
also, man, you gotta remember Morph
Corporate
Market.
food.
Not everyone uses Morph Market. There's
Yeah.
60,000 ball pythons on Morph Market. Not everyone. We can talk to Reptiles by Mac, the Rainbow Reptile. I can't remember their business name. The people that are supplying the Pecos in the
Yeah.
PetSmart, tens of thousands of ball pythons and other of these,
Mhm.
beginner starter reptiles that are being mass produced. That stuff's not shown on Morph Market. That number's not there.
No.
So the real number of what's being produced is insane to me.
Yeah. It really, really is. As long
Meanwhile,
as those
but
snakes have been around forever.
meanwhile, we have this like grand idealization in 2024 that the market is still the same as the early 2000s, and everyone can be the next Justin Cabelica, the Cabelica reptiles for ball pythons if they just
Mm.
keep building. But it really does seem people are just breeding ball pythons for ball python breeders. There doesn't seem to be a too high a demand for them in the pet trade. And it sucks. It sucks to see that people are going through the route of investment reptile and making their money breeding a distinct species where we could be again. I was talking about this. Was that yesterday or the day before? There are so many incredible species of reptiles that we have no stuff I didn't even know. I've been in this hobby for a decade now. I didn't know it existed until a month, 2 weeks ago.
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
on Friday, Justin told me two species that I've never heard of before.
Well,
And importation, as we cut down with, a lot of stuff is getting CITES 2. Tokyo geckos just hit CITES 2. Once you
Oh
hit
shit.
CITES 1 with importation, that's it. You're done. You're not
sorry.
going to have that species here anymore. And so, if they're not dedicated people captive breeding and reproducing the species to keep them in here, we're going to see a lot of these species start fading more and more. As again, PETA, HSUS start getting more legislation, more bills and bans passed on them. A lot of stuff is going to start disappearing, man. And so I don't know. I'd rather just see a room full of really cool species that people found out and are passionate about versus a room of people just buying ball pythons to sell to the guy 3 tables behind him for his ball pythons.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean that's why I keep all kinds of different stuff. Like I have Stropheris, I have Chihuahuas, I have Ceratodactylus, I got Haemophilus fasciata, I got Oreodoras, I got all kinds of shit. And like I said, we all started off with those gateway geckos, right? Leopard gecko, crested gecko, all that stuff. But it's can we evolve and find other things that are just as cool? And I mean that's probably the whole reason. That's one of the reasons why we started this podcast is to show people that there's so many other reptiles in this world besides what the industry standards are, right? No, just like I
Exactly.
said, we talked to Justin, and we're talking about like I said, the Capotes Dumbara, because people are like, what the hell is this? It's like, hold on, we're gonna get Justin on, we're gonna talk about this shit. you
Yeah.
know uh we just had on David Kelly talking about some velvet geckos. People are like, "What the fuck are
That was the
these?"
next one I was gonna watch.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was yeah, great info. That guy has so much knowledge when it comes to stuff, all that stuff. I'm thinking Anthony's probably he got timed out.
He's
Am
back.
I not on? You don't
No,
see
I
me?
see. I see him. I see him.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
we see
Good.
you. You just look like you were like flustered real quick, like you
He
got
he,
Not
timed
yeah,
out.
he
man.
was with the
I had
watch, and then
the phone
Yeah.
on silent, and my boy keeps calling me like 100,000 times. I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Oh
All right.
shit!
I was like, damn, did he
I
just cut out?
apologize.
Because
I just got this new phone, and I don't know how to. I thought I had the silent on this new phone, and it's got these new buttons now that I don't. It apparently doesn't work.
you gotta hit him with that do not disturb mode on.
That's what I thought I had
yeah,
on. I thought I had the thing on, but it kept coming through from like WhatsApp, then regular text, and this. I'm like, Christ, dude, that any phone call, you don't get it? Holy shit!
Yeah, and by no means
oh,
am I saying like people shouldn't breed ball python. Like no ball python should ever be bred. But man, like if you're passionate about ball pythons and you're passionate about like albino ball pythons, breed the best albino pythons you can. I think that's an incredible mutation. It's stuff like that, but it's not 2006 anymore. It's not the early 2000s where these things,
no, no.
pieds there'll never be another, ball python morph worth $60,000 for one baby or a couple of hets. That time is past. We're evolving into a new generation of how we do things, and
Oh yeah.
it's sad to see that so many people are still just, they don't expand to see like the cooler stuff that's out there. And there's a time limit on this cool stuff, man. Like I said, with the CITES and importation being closed down, there is only a
Yep.
select amount of time. Monkey tail skinks, I think monkey tail skinks are going to be going away here very soon.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just an incredible species, but it's a species much like the crocodile skink. They only lay, man, I want to say they're eggs, but they might be, they could be live
I think
birds
they're
as well.
live
I
bears.
thought they're
Are
Yeah,
they
live
live
bears.
bears?
yeah, I
Very,
think
I
they
very
think
are.
small
so.
number. Again, that like
Yeah.
1 to 3 a year, but such an
Mm,
incredible species to keep. I remember I used to
Oh
have
yeah.
dreams of setting up a giant vivarium because they also are social animals. They're group animals, so you can
mhm,
have a social group. So building like a giant vivarium, having a family in there would be
mhm.
incredible. I still might do that one day if I when I get my new facility. We'll be getting into like some cooler stuff, but right now it's like, what cool stuff do I have versus how much space do I have left?
Mm.
Yeah. So
Do you
I was
keep
gonna
any of
ask.
your
Oh,
tokeis in a
go ahead, Ant.
do you keep any of your tokeis in like a communal setting? Do you keep like parents and babies together in any of your setups?
So all of mine are set up that way.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Depending on the females, so some of my females are still wild caught, and when it comes to the imported females, you have to go a lot of. This is again, I get so much shit sometimes with like how much my captive bred stuff. I'm gonna generate at this point generationally captive bred. You know, we're talking 2 3 lines
Mm,
down captive bred. You know, 175, 180, whatever I price them at. That's so much when they can get a wild caught for $20. Get a wild caught animal, you have to acclimate it. You potentially have to treat it. I'm not a treat happy kind of guy when it comes to imported animals, but if it
mm,
does need to be treated, you do have to treat it. And
mm,
I feel like they need to be acclimated, even like adults. You need to acclimate adults for a bare minimum a year. They need a full season before you start attempting breeding. And then when you do breed, you have to go very easy on these wild caught girls. I've done too many times where I've tried to push it further with them, like 3 4 clutches, and they just fall on me.
mm.
They calcium crash or they crash
Really?
for other reasons. And once you get a token that calcium crashes, there's really no coming back from that, unfortunately. So you have to take them very easily. But for a lot of my captive bred gals, I mean, they're going on their fifth to sixth clutch. You feed them right, you heat them right, and give them proper all the vitamins. I personally use UVB for all of my toke gecko pairs. I find it beneficial for them. It helps with breeding. I find it grows the babies potentially faster. That could be a
Mm,
placebo effect, but that's just my stance on it. But I mean, these geckos, you keep them right in a nice big 2 by 2 and
mm,
giving them proper heat, the proper vitamintation and stuff. I mean, they are just laying eggs like that. So I have parents that are
mm.
in with like my reduced pairing right now. We have the mom, dad, 6 eggs left to hatch in there, and then there
That's
are
awesome.
3 or 4 babies running around in that enclosure right now.
That's so damn cool, man.
It's like it's the reason
Uh,
why I got into tokes. It is such a cool thing to
uh,
watch. You just see these like there's like 3 babies, one's over here, one's chilling in the leaf litter, and they all scurry. I found the funny thing with the babies is they're much more likely to try to jump out of the enclosure than the parents. The parents like will stand their ground, they know the hiding spots.
mm.
Babies will just like run right towards you. It's very funny.
That's
Mm.
so damn cool.
So for
So
you,
you let all the eggs hatch in there, huh? Do you ever pull an egg out? Do you ever see like yeah?
I have very little success with artificially incubating. I've done it a couple of times in the past because if in my opinion, or from what I've seen, my personal experience, if the eggs get knocked down, usually the females or the male, I don't know which gecko does, I don't have like cameras set up in there or anything, but they'll find that as like bad eggs at that point and they'll eat the actual egg.
oh
So I've
shit.
done it where
Wow.
I've artificially, and I found that they'll remember. I don't know, the problem is I haven't done enough research because I don't want to go that far, if toke geckos recognize their own babies or if they'll take care of any baby. But what I have found is artificially incubating eggs, if you take that baby and put it back, the parents will see it as their own and will take care of that baby.
Mm.
That's
Now, I don't know
amazing.
if they distinctly know it's their baby or if it's just a toke baby. I don't want to push that and
Mm,
start putting, other babies and other tokes and then they start getting eaten. I don't want to try that personally. But the furthest I'll go is the fact that babies, the parents will recognize those babies. But artificially incubating, I found I just don't have great success with it. Maybe it's just the method. I treat them like new cal eggs, although I bump the temperatures up for them, and that doesn't seem to be the way. I think if you are artificially incubating, you need to put them on a dry surface that is still very humid around it. So much like you would do with like I believe they do the same with Europlatus eggs, that like dry medium and then like covered wet sphagnum moss or just a
Yeah.
complete water basin in the around it would work. But I also found with babies need to be with the adults. They grow a lot faster than the adults. I remember reading some documentation where babies actually, in order to get their gut fauna going in their early days of life, they'll actually eat the poop of the adults to get that gut fauna and all that beneficial bacteria and stuff flowing for them. When
Some
you
species
don't
of skinks do that.
Really, when you don't keep them,
Yeah.
I've had to separate babies before, or I've had eggs that just took too long to hatch, and so I've just tried artificially, taking care of them myself. They don't grow as fast, they don't get established as quickly. It's just there's a lot of negative sides to it. So the best thing you can do for tokays is you don't have to leave it with both mom and dad if you need to separate. I have plenty. I have my Green Galaxy pair. I took that male to cool them off because I have a quote unquote het Green Galaxy that will also be coming, that I want to try to prove if that can really be like a genetic mutation or if it's just more of an oddball pattern. But with her, I mean, she's taken care of, I think there's 2 or 3 babies right now just hatched in there. So keeping them with just one parental animal is just fine. That seems to be the best way to go
That's
about
awesome.
breeding the animal.
Nice.
Very cool.
So, which like your substrates and stuff, are you sourcing that stuff yourself, or are you going through somebody for that? You don't have to say like if you are going through somebody, you don't have to say like the company or whatever. But are you? What are you doing for that stuff?
As far as like my bioactive substrate, I source all the
Yeah.
materials myself.
Okay.
I definitely want to expand on it more. The issue is just trying to source out good wholesale for some of these products, like
Yeah.
tree fern fiber. Seems to be really hard to find a wholesale, and just the retail price on it. It's why a tree fern fiber
Expensive.
is one of the ingredients I use for. I call it the bio booster. I think I'm going to change that name because so many people think it's an additive, not of substrates on it. It's like my premium best substrate mix you can make for a bioactive enclosure. The problem is
Okay.
it's $25 for a 5-quart bag versus like the 16, $17 for the regular stuff that I use. And that's just because I have not been able to find enough wholesale parts to make that, to
Okay.
keep that cost down, because it costs me myself so much to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
That's
got all these
expensive. It's
recipes down
expensive
to the
stuff.
T.
Um, I think we're pretty good. I've known people like if you know, do you guys know Kenny from Dirt Daddy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Dirt Daddy. Dirt Daddy, like, if you want to talk about substrate to a T, Dirt Daddy has gone. He has specific companies that he sources these ingredients out that are tried and tested. He's done mold testing under UVB, not under UVB, like these 90-day trials. So when it comes to that, I'm not at that level yet, but I feel like I have a good ratio of my mix now. Now
Okay.
it's just about continuing that, and I would love to do that testing because he can guarantee no mold from his substrate, and I found that to true.
That's
I have
great.
a lot of my cave geckos. I still have a pair of caves. I forgot to mention them, but I've been using his substrate for them, and I've yet to see a speck of mold in there.
Okay. How
Hmm.
many different kind of substrates like you got tropical? Do you have like arid or anything? Like, do you do anything like that?
So we started out with the basic. It's just your basic ABG mix that I kind of
Hmm.
added a couple of different things. So I guess the bioactive purists will say it's not an ABG mix because I added a couple of things into it. So that's my basic one. We did start an arid one. It didn't do that well for me, so I'm gonna start taking it off. I think I wholesaled the last of my supplies to somebody for it, and I don't think I'll be like continuing because I don't think I ever sold a bag of that wholesale account.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that arid stuff's hard, man.
It's
Like,
hard, and
yeah,
I don't know. I just feel like because I only have the bearded if it comes to like anything arid, so it's just not my forte. And then
yeah.
now we have the premium mix, which I talked about a little earlier, and that's like the best you can get when it comes to getting a nice bioactive substrate.
Okay.
What else do you offer for our followers and your followers and anyone listening? What else do you offer as far as products for your project jungle? You offering drainage layers, screens? We know you got the plants. Where are you this far with that as far as products?
Yeah, I gotta get the screens. I got it's they're such a pain in the ass to cut, but I need to get over it because everyone's always like, brother, no screen in the kit. I'm like, yeah, man. Sometimes if people ask, I'll like cut them off my personal, screen. I have this
Mm,
giant roll. I need to start offering that. That'll be probably coming up within the next week or two. But drainage layers we offer just the basic Leca balls. They do great. They're lightweight. I don't really
yep.
see a need to have any other drainage layer since they just get the job done. Um, we already talked about substrates. We've got the regular old, oak leaves that I personally source myself. That comes from an area that's not treated with any pesticides, fungicides, or harmful pollutions from like cars or anything like that. And then now we're offering the magnolia leaves. We do
Right.
quite a few isopods. I believe it was 10 different species of isopods right now in springtails as well.
Very
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Very nice.
What kind of isopods? Like from high to low, what kind of are you doing?
So we got the powdered blues and the powdered oranges, the Spanish oranges, dairy cows, Japanese magic potions, panda kings,
Awesome.
giant canyons. Fuck, I think they're called
Oh, you got a
Titan
badass selection,
isopods.
man.
I just got these Titans in, which are really cool because they'll defend the babies. They make burrows and they'll
Really?
have the babies and they'll like defend it's a really interesting species.
Huh.
Those aren't really for sale yet because I have such a small number and I kind of want to personally enjoy them. And
Oh
then
yeah.
then we have just a couple smaller stuff. The oh man, what's it called? Hang on. The yellow spotted, the armadillium, the Gastori. I don't know these guys right
What are
here.
they called? Like magic potions or something? Magic potions or something?
I can't remember what they're called. Can you guys see them? Because the bin's just right in my face.
No, but I know which ones you're talking about though.
They're
That's awesome. Those are like the best. I mean, not for nothing, but like those are some of my favorites. All the ones you got there.
like
Oh,
Okay.
they
okay.
got the yellow spots to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So very
Awesome.
small. Someone just sent me 5 of them, and now we're up to like there's actually a good number in here now.
Awesome.
But
How are
yeah,
they
I don't.
doing? You doing well with selling the
Oh
isopods? Are they
yeah,
moving? Yeah.
it's insane how fast these
Yeah,
isopods move at shows, man. It's
I bet.
incredible. I always run out. I always have to. I usually buy more isopods. I like make if I go to a show, I usually drop like 100 or 200 with Kenny at Dirt Daddy to get some of his isopods. And the biggest issue I'm having right now is sourcing enough because Kenny can't keep up with my
Really.
with how many I need for shows in the website.
It's a
So we
great
definitely
problem to have, man.
yeah. Well, it's the problem is I can't source. I'm finding a problems sourcing wholesale for isopods. It seems a little bit
Mhm.
difficult, but so it's just a
Hmm.
thing where like I sell what I sell, and a lot of it's going to be sold out, and then some stuff I don't put on the site because I need it for like your bioactive kits and things like that. I always
Yeah.
need to make sure I have a couple of ready for those things.
Hey, not for nothing, but if you ever do you mess around on eBay at all? Do you ever go on eBay?
Yeah, I've gotten some stuff from the eBay, especially like
Dude,
roaches and stuff. They have some great
I've
prices on there.
seen like mass orders of mixed, and I know it's a pain in the ass because they're mixed, but like wholesale isopods for $20, you could buy like 500 powder oranges and
Damn.
powder blues. Like I swear to God, man, they sell them as feeders, but the problem is they sell them for so cheap because they're not separated. So you get like 500 to 1,000 isopods, but there'll be blues and oranges and whatever all mixed together. But when I
See,
got
but
some
I think
small,
those would be perfect for bioactive kits and people that are
yes,
just looking
yes,
for a cleanup
yes.
crew and not looking for
Yes.
the just to
Yes.
like create it as a hobby itself.
Yes. I'd shop around on there. If that's what you're selling them for, look around a little bit, maybe send a message to one of them guys and say, listen, I'll buy everything you got. Give me a good enough deal. Get yourself a few thousand of them things,
Yeah, I
man.
didn't even think about it for isopods. That's a good
Yeah,
idea. I'm gonna check that out.
absolutely,
But no
man.
one else should check it out. They should go to my
No,
website.
I know. I
Hey,
almost
yeah,
didn't
go
want
to
to
your
say it. I'm
website.
almost like, damn, like I almost kicked myself in the ass. Like, damn, should I tell them on here?
Yeah,
Should I not say it
yeah, you
on
should have
here?
done
But
that after the show stopped.
these people that want a couple for a set, dude, they're for a tank. They're not. They don't. What
Well,
is
that's
it? 20,000 going to do for them? They want 10. They don't want thousands of them. I'm telling him to look for mass amounts. To resale. You
Well,
know,
that's the
that's where you're going
thing,
to get the
right?
deal.
Like you buy for the convenience factor of it. Like I do all the work for you. I have the
Yes.
proper ratios for the substrates. Everything's bagged for the drainage layer. I pre-wash that stuff for you. You ain't got no dusty drainage balls when you buy from Dakotah. Those things are
There you go.
mint. Everything like
That's-
that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you could obviously go to eBay. You can buy 1,000, but most people just need like one tank. And what are you gonna do
yeah,
with like the extra 920?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Could you imagine just like a 12 by 18, just like living soil as there's 1,000 isopods in a 12 by 12?
They're just gonna be stacked up on each other like this. Boom. You can't even see
But
the dirt
I've
anymore. It's
got
just
lit. It
number
sounds crazy,
isopods.
but I got enclosures like it's nuts, dude. But I literally have living soil with the dwarf whites.
Oh my
Dude,
god, my
they
dwarf
those
whites.
things they're like literally. I mean, there's got to be 100,000 in one of these enclosures I got. You move your finger
God,
through it, and
dog.
the
I hate
soil just crawls.
I stopped doing the dwarf whites because they just so easily infiltrate the other isopod enclosures. And so I
Oh
wanted to
shit.
keep that like quote unquote pure. So I dumped all of mine in my gecko tubs for the soil. And every time, man, I'll open up a thing. I was like, "Oh man, is that mold?" I'm like, "No, it's just hundreds of dwarf whites on top of gecko
Hundreds,
poop eating it."
hundreds of them.
I've never had to clean any gecko poop out of these enclosures because these dwarf whites are like they're on it.
Damn.
Absolutely.
So for your plants, I'll say, what's the price ranges on those for from like your lower end to your higher end stuff? Like what kind of plants are we looking at for these kits?
So most of my plants, I'm still keeping as pretty common, low budget because most of the people don't buy from me from the plants.
Okay.
I'm only the issue with wholesaling with plants, man, is you're either like buying from like Etsy, eBay like that,
Oh yeah, yeah.
or you have to be this giant greenhouse. A lot of these wholesales are for nurseries, greenhouses,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so you can't just buy wholesale. You need to sign up for an account, and there's stuff
Mhm.
like, are you going to be buying $30,000 worth of plants, or just 10, and you have your own truck, right? Or do we have to provide you a truck? And it's like, oh man, I think I'm in the wrong area here. So it's been difficult to find a good variety of that. I found a pretty good place where I can get these 2-inch pots for a pretty good price and still make my money on them. They don't come in the best
Nice.
condition, and I don't get to choose exactly what I get. So that's kind of
Yeah.
been the tough spot. So a lot of stuff is going to be your basic, $5 to $7, and then I'm starting my own propagation stuff with some of the begonias, philodendrons, and at that point, those are going to be a
There
little
you
bit more
go.
expensive depending on the species, but nothing over like
Mhm.
20 bucks.
Okay.
Nice, nice.
What's the shipping like on that
What do you
stuff?
have?
Or not like cost wise, but how do you ship plant? I've never got a plant shipped to me, so I'm just kind of curious on this.
So that's something that's been some trial and error, especially since I
Okay.
started this when it was still cold. So it was a lot of like you almost do it as a reptile would. So in the wintertime you have to use a heat pack. In the
Mm.
summertime I use it's used actually for like lunch boxes to keep them cool. I can't remember what the thing. It's like I think it's the same company that does the Phase 22s, the cryo packs,
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah.
but they're like mini squares. I get this giant like grid of them, and I cut out whatever amount I need for the
Oh, I just
box.
got some. Yeah, I just got some of those. Yeah.
Yeah, they work great for reptiles too if you're keeping them cool. But
Okay.
I normally do them for plants, so keeping them like that. I also found my new thing is packing peanuts. I'm using packing peanuts now to fill the box up.
Hmm.
Since
Mhm.
I actually I've had one customer now that came to me and said their order just crushed plants because of how shipping companies handle these things.
Yeah.
So you try
Mhm.
to really like pack it as tightly as you can so the plants can't move or be crushed at all. Packing
Yeah.
peanuts seemed to be the best thing. I did that with them and they didn't have any problems with it at that point. So I'm switching over because that's how they come to me. They come in this big box filled with packing peanuts. So I usually
Damn.
have a little bit of extra that I can start throwing into boxes and then I'll have to buy some own.
Awesome.
But basically, it's the
Well,
same
you-
thing as an animal, but you're just using UPS or USPS, and then
Okay.
just making sure that the plant is either if it's summertime, well watered enough. So I'll really drench it with water, and then
Mhm.
grab a paper towel and soak it. So it's just like a damp paper towel, and I'll wrap that around the pot so the roots in themselves don't
Mhm.
dry out
Okay.
during transit. And then in summer or in wintertime, sorry, you want to keep them a little bit more on the drier end because if you keep a plant that's wet and cold, it's not going to survive the transit.
Mm,
And so it's not overnight shipping for that, or is it just regular
No,
shipping?
no, it's regular shipping. I've been able to
That's
do
nice.
5, 6 days and everything's okay. Even with the isopods, as you just have to make sure that cup is moist. And I always add in a little food, if that's like a carrot slice or just some of the food that Kenny from Dirt Daddy uses, anything like that,
Okay.
just to make sure that they live for that transit period. But you don't have to do
mm,
the expedited shipping.
nice. Did you set up your own shipping account yet? Do you have like a, are you selling enough that are you like printing your labels? Do you have like a thermal printer at home and you're bringing like huge amounts to the post office so they're picking up, or how are you managing all that too?
So I have found now they say fake it till you make it, right? I'm definitely not anywhere near like the Josh's Frogs and Bio Dude
Mm,
level, right? But I have found that I don't get that much quantity, but I do get a lot of quality people that see the passion behind it and want to not just get a cool bioactive, but want to support me as well. So we get a
nice.
lot of like, we don't get a lot of orders, but we get a lot of like the bio kits. So 80, 100,
Mm,
$200 orders at a time.
nice.
So
Nice.
we have a Shopify account. That's how I built this last
Okay.
website that we did that we have now. So the Shopify account comes with itself a UPS and USPS account, so we get a nice
Nice.
discount on the shipping that we can give to people. But we do have the thermal printer
Very
now,
nice.
and I actually the really cool thing about thermal printers is you can make your own stickers. So all of my all the substrates, a drainage layer. I've made my own like little because Josh's Frogs and the Biodude has the little like info packets on them that they
Mhm.
slap on
Yeah.
it. That's my like kind of DIY thing, so I don't have to pay
Nice.
money for it since I already
Yeah.
have all this thermal paper in the printer. But it's just something to make it
Very
look a
nice.
little bit more professional because when I first started,
Very
it was
nice.
just like general baggy, and I slap my logo sticker on it. This makes it feel a little bit more like it's a product.
Very cool. Now, I also know that for anyone else that doesn't know, but you have a merch line too, right? You offer shirts and some other merch. Are you still doing that, or?
I kind of gave up,
Yeah.
so I use Teespring through it. If you really
Okay.
want to make a merch line, you need physical product. You shouldn't do
Oh yeah.
Teespring because the overhead on it is so ridiculous that your
Yeah.
margins are so little. So I have to sell shirts for like 25, $30, and I make like $5 or $6 off it. Granted, I don't have to do
Um,
anything. It's just my thing. So the ease of that is great. But if you're looking to make money doing merch, the t-shirts just aren't
mm,
on it. And then paying graphic designers, I'm paying anywhere from 100 to 250 for a design. And at
uh,
that point it really just started like after a few months it would make its money back on the design and then not
mm,
much else. So I still have the store there, but I haven't looked at it in like 4 months. I think I just took a look
all
and there's
right.
like $20 in the account.
Mm. Hey, it's all trial and error, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you got
yeah.
to at least you're trying it, dude. You're trying everything. I mean, you've tried every angle. You see what works, you see what doesn't, and you pursue what's working for you, man. I mean, I think it's whether it succeeded or not. I think it's incredible. Again, I give you credit for trying all these things, man. I mean, from like you said, dude, sleeping on the floor in your old facility, man. Not once did you ever give up the animals, man. Not once. You stuck it out, man. Like and it's from my side of the table, it's awesome to finally see you starting to really fucking blossom, if you will. It's super cool, man.
It's perseverance
Yeah,
right there.
I can't go back to that 9 to 5, man. I can't. I mean, I got the face tattoos. There's no going back.
There you go.
I'm sure in this day and age anyone will take me with how bad the job markets are, but I can't. There was a point this year when the market crashed. It was right before that. It was like the bio thing was funny. It was my last straw because I was really about to have to go back to a 9 to 5. We weren't selling anything. The stuff I was selling, it wasn't paying the bills. And this was my thing where I was like, I'm gonna put every last penny I have right now in my savings into the bioactive thing, and let's see if we can make something of it. And it
I
worked.
love
And
those
I
stories.
boom, almost a year later, and I still know 9 to 5.
That's awesome, dude.
Well, as long as
That's
you keep
awesome.
living
That's
your goal, right?
determination, man.
You
That's
know, yeah, living that dream, man. Yeah. So coming up towards the end, I know I got one more question. Ant, you got a closing question?
Dude, you know me, I could keep going. I'm still curious
Now
about
we know
the
this.
bioactive thing, but I know we got a time limit. I'm just curious. I just want to know what else do you plan on, offering for your bioactive company? Like, are you gonna make a variety? I know you have a couple options of soils, but what about like real what's it called, like a terrarium booster? They sell like calcium and carbon like boosters for soils and supplements. Do you have any intentions of branding any other products?
So I feel like when it comes to supplementations and things like that, I feel like a lot of it's been done already, and a lot of it's been done well enough.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Mm,
if it's just like a lot of light white labeling when it comes to businesses,
yeah.
where it's like, calcium's calcium for the most part. Now, the
Yeah.
Rapashi has the calcium plus, which is a lot more beneficial,
Mhm.
but I just don't see the point of me putting out a calcium line when, like, the Zoom Med, Rapashi,
Yeah.
everyone else already has one. So at that point, I think I'd be more interested in wholesaling supplementation and then
Mhm.
providing it on my website or at shows and things like that.
Mhm.
When it comes to plants, bromeliads are definitely my next thing. We just started with them. I really want to get some more different species of the bromeliads. I mean, going from just like the Talencia air plants to using bromeliads in bioactive enclosures, game changer, man. The bromeliads
Yeah.
like make a tropical bioactive viv. So we're going to focus more on that. I'd love to find a steady source for plants where I can get more species that I'm truly interested in that I think work much better in bioactive enclosures. But as far as that, I really don't want to focus more on, like, I don't want to make a lot of different substrate lines. I want to perfect my substrate because you really, when it's a bioactive enclosure, you don't need 17 substrate lines. You just really need one good one. And I want to make, just like Kenny from Dirt Dead, I want to make the perfect bioactive substrate where people will see
Nice.
that, and then that just kind of goes like, oh, if you want bioactive substrate, you go here because that guy has the perfect blend.
Nice.
Nice.
Awesome.
So was Kenny like? So these other substrate people are they really supportive with you on this, or
Oh,
are
Kenny's
you finding
amazing. Kenny,
cool?
I was Kenny's apprentice for a little while when I was talking
Nice.
about. He kind of showed me like what I should do. And again, it was trial and error for me as well. My first iteration of the substrate was not great. It caused I wasn't doing enough of aeration supply, so things like orchard bark, things that'll create air pockets within the thing. So what
Mhm.
would happen was the substrate would kind of clay in on itself, and it would
Mhm.
cause the roots to struggle to be able to root
Mhm.
down.
Mhm.
And overall, just the substrate itself was way too retaining of water. It didn't have enough of those air pockets or a lighter substrate itself that will allow drainage better. So we definitely made some strides. Kenny has been a huge help with that and figuring that out, helping with
Awesome.
the isopods and getting them locked down. I've thrown a lot of money at Kenny for his isopods as well as a thank you to try to keep him going. He's a great guy. I also met him at Flora Fauna the first time that I went,
Mhm.
and we've been good
Nice.
friends ever since.
Nice.
Awesome.
Cool.
It's good people, man. People like that and relationships like that are what help this hobby grow, man. All that gatekeeping and hating on each other, it gets nowhere. Everyone can succeed if we all just at least entertain, each other's ideas, right? It doesn't cost you anything to hear somebody's idea out, right? I mean, it's good to have people like that don't look at you as a threat or competition to what they're doing, but rather help you. I mean, that's an awesome thing, man.
Yeah, he's been, and I mean, like, I mean, especially because he also is full time in this, and I
Hmm.
would be at some point, I'm some sort of a direct competition with him, so he definitely
Hmm.
could, kindly told me to fuck off and be like,
Yeah.
man. But no, he was like, he gave some amazing constructive criticism on like what ingredients and substrate really have no
Mhm.
nutritional value, what are great for this and that, and he really helped me build it out. So that's why, again, Kenny's my direct competition. I have no problem shouting him out because I think he has an amazing product and he's an amazing
Awesome.
guy. And that's how we grow over here.
Hmm.
I don't want to gatekeep stuff. I love that Justin, with stuff like the Collodies, the first one to produce them, or the first or second, I believe, and he's not over here like, I'm not going to tell you how to I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You got to figure it out yourself, just like me. You definitely could have done it. Look at the monitor people, the venomous people, how gatekeepy that community is. But no, he's openly telling everyone like, this is how you do it, because he cares about the product, whether that be the animal, the substrate, anything like that. They care about that stuff, and they want to see that stuff flourish in the hobby.
Yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say if they're not flourishing, guess what? We're gonna lose these animals. Like I say, you can't. We don't know how to breed them. He was the only one that does. Guess what? We're not gonna have any more. It's just it is what it is with that stuff. So like my last question is, what have been your biggest failures in this hobby? And then what have you learned from them? Besides the part, all that stuff that you just said.
Oh man. My biggest failure, it's kind of hypocritical because I'm doing what my biggest failure was. But when you are first starting out breeding, when you don't have the experience, and when you don't have the experience or anything like that, keep on track. Have a goal in mind and follow that. My biggest failure and why I think I struggled so long in this business is I was another guy doing the same species, crested geckos. I was keeping them the same way as everyone else was keeping them. Subparley, shortcuts, paper towels, all that stuff. I wasn't bringing anything new to the hobby, right? And with the projects that I was doing, I was flip flopping about once a year, where like we do crocodile stinks, now we don't. I still have people to this day, hey, do you have more mountain horn dragons? Do you have crocodile stinks? I made such an impact in those places that years later I don't talk about them. People are still ask me because people, I don't know if people are recommending me or they saw a YouTube video or something. And it's stuff like that where I was so wishy washy. Mexican black king snakes, the croc skinks. I did ball pythons for a year. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. Ball pythons was my biggest failure, thinking that I should breed. But no,
Mm,
Oh
shit.
shit.
it was not having a game plan, and it was not continuing. I mean, I had all the signs right in front of me. Dakotah, do toke geckos. People love your toke geckos. You're selling out. Really focus on that. And for some reason, it took about 4 years for me to figure out that, like, oh, I should really kind of focus on these things.
Mm.
Everyone knows me for them. No one knows me for crested geckos and stuff. Like, you had the roadmap was there. I just, for some reason, I was taking detours every 5 seconds for some strange reason. So have a plan in mind. Pick something you're absolutely passionate about. It. Do not fall. The investment phase of this reptile hobby is over. It's maybe not completely, but at the point that people try to sell it out to be, it's not the early 2000s anymore. You're not making money. This isn't the next big thing, right? The next big thing is going to be something you are excited about, passionate about, and build a community around and excitement around it. Look at the tokes, man. Junkyard gecko. Look how awesome that toke gecko market has started flourishing as more people realize that, like, oh, these are actually an incredible species of geckos. They're not just mean junkyard animals. And I know at this point now I'm kind of flip flopping, and now I'm like, I'm only going to work with species that I like. So I'm going to have a ton of. I listed all of them off. I have so many species, but the core difference now is I have that 5 or 6 years of breeding experience for animals, and at this point I'm not. I don't want to. I only want to do it purely as a passion project to figure it out. Again, those colloides, the crested river dragons, the Sri Lankan pygmy lizards. I want to figure that stuff out and kind of just really focus on that as a passion. I don't need that stuff to make money. If they don't lay me eggs, they
Mm.
don't lay me eggs, they don't give me babies. I don't really care because the bioactive stuff is taking care of that.
Nice.
Nice.
All right. So my closing question, you kind of somehow, somewhat just answered it, but I got to ask it because I always ask it. If you could, if a child wanted to grow up to do what you're doing, if there was a group of kids out here that wanted to do what you're doing, and with your social media, the YouTube, your animals, what advice would you give those kids that wanted to grow up to do what you're doing today?
We talking like teenagers or children?
Now,
Children?
kids, young kids,
Kids,
you would see
kids.
the show like,
To be able to be like a breeder, first thing I would start out with is find something that you enjoy. Now, when we're talking about children, I backtrack on some of the stuff I'm saying because when we are getting these, I don't want little Timmy to be getting a crested river
mm,
dragon where there's no care guides, there's no
yeah,
information about it, and there's like one guy maybe out there that is doing
yeah,
them. So I would definitely pick something you're passionate about, but find something that there is
perfect.
riddle information on. Get them as babies, grow them out, figure out how to care for them, what that life cycle looks like, and then at that point try to look into breeding. I would keep first, make sure it's something that you're fully passionate about. Don't be like me and buy 20 pairs of crocodile skinks and then realize that, oh, I shouldn't do this. And
Mm,
pick something, make sure you're passionate about it, go for it, grow it out, start your social media game. as long as you're at the age where you can do social, I don't know what age bracket social media is
Yeah,
supposed to
man,
have,
neither. No.
or have, there's oh, what's his name, the kid, him and his dad do it. That's like their fun little thing. They do
Oh, with the
social media.
shows.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he
You know,
goes around trying to flip the animals to like trade.
yeah, there's a
That's what you're
couple
talking
there.
about. Yeah.
Not that guy. I can't remember. I saw him at Nerd one time. That sucks. I can't remember his name. But stuff like that, maybe make it a family project.
Yeah.
But get on social media, like I mentioned. Start it up as soon as possible. My biggest mistake with that was not starting it sooner, because it doesn't matter if you're already producing babies. Like I said, get the social media in there, get that attention on it, especially if it is a species that not many people know about. People want to look at. No one wants to look at your fucking 7 gene there's ball python, except all the other ball python guys are like, oh, I can't believe I didn't produce that next year. Nah, people want to see the cool stuff, and people want to see stuff that you're excited about because it gets them excited about it as well.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely. So where can everybody find you, Dakotah?
You can find me at Dakotah Blue Exotics. I am on mainly YouTube and Instagram are my two big sources. I'm also on Facebook, and very rarely will you find me on TikTok, but when I remember I have it, I'll post on there.
Yeah.
Awesome. And
Also
your
plug in the
website?
website too.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
have a website. The most important one I just left
Yeah.
out. You can find me at dakotahblueexotics.com. It has all my bioactive stuff, all my geckos for sale. The geckos are on the home page. I think people click on the website and they expect to see a little banner, but homepage, big box says geckos for sale. You click that and it'll take you there. But anything else, all my isopods, plants, bioactive kits, that's all at dakotahblueexotics.com.
Awesome.
Nice. Cool.
Awesome. Dude, it was great having you, man. Honestly, I appreciate it. We appreciate it. I wish you nothing but the best. You're doing fantastic, man. Contributing to the hobby, contributing to the community. You're a huge asset, man. And thank you on everyone's behalf, man. Awesome stuff that you're doing, bro. Wish you nothing but the best.
I appreciate it, man. It was cool coming on here because I know I've seen both of you guys' names like in the comments and so it's cool
Yeah.
like putting faces to that and being able to have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But so definitely, I said like Ant said, no, I said, man, you're doing great things out there, man, and definitely appreciate you coming out here talking to us. Talking about a whole bunch of different stuff. From YouTube to marketing to your business stuff. No, you're definitely inspiring the younger generation on how to do it differently, not just what the industry standard is, like you said, with the ball pythons, the crescent geckos, put them in racks, put them in tubs and all that good stuff. You're showing them a totally different way, which, like I said, commend you for that, man. Like, salute you, and I seriously hope that like it just keeps going well for you, man.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just kind of doing it like everybody else, and I've really seen a great, not so much in like growth of social media and stuff like that, but growth in the value of trying to inspire people to like, hey, maybe don't just set up a bunch of crested geckos in tubs, like build I can't tell you how many people have been able to show me pictures of their bioactive vivariums because they saw me building bioactive, and that is the thing I fucking love, man, is seeing people that it's not just about like, oh, look at this cool reptile that I'm going to put in a rack. Look at this enclosure that I made for this species. That's the shit I really
Oh,
love seeing these days.
Nice. And let me go ahead and
absolutely.
just give a shout out to Morph Market customer service since you are affiliated with them. Uh, so I did
Oh,
have
not
a
anymore. The contract ran out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, oh shit. Well,
I'm
never
open.
mind.
Any other of these marketplaces want me?
Well, like as you said,
I'm
they
straight.
just started the shipping stuff, right? And I sent out a gecko uh Wednesday, and that thing got totally fucking lost. It went
Oh,
to Indy, and it was supposed to go to Alabama, right? And it got dropped off in fucking Florida. So yeah, exactly. Contacted the customer service. They handled everything, and then so instead of coming going there or getting there on like Monday, holding it over the weekend, they made them drive it all the way down to
oh,
yeah, it made them all drive it down all the way to Tennessee, or yeah, Tennessee.
yeah. That's
So
that's Memphis, right?
yeah, Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah, or no, it's not Tennessee. Sorry, Alabama. Made them drive it to Alabama.
So they got it. They got him there.
Yeah, so yeah, Stephanie got it. So Green Acres Exotics, we did a swap. So she sent me some pictus. I sent her a Stropharis intermedius. Like I said, customer service A1 on that. They got the gecko there. Gecko was alive. So
That's
Thanks.
incredible because I know that's like the biggest stigma right now is, they're not like the other shipping companies. They're going to they're going to lose package. The customer service isn't there like it is with these other ones. But man, even though I'm not affiliated with them anymore, I still like Morph Market. Most of the thing, 90% of the stuff in Morph Market I enjoy. And I use their shipping thing, and I actually made a sale because of the shipping due to the
Yeah.
fact that I have for some reason, a lot of fans in California that want to buy my stuff, and I'm on the other side of the
That's
country.
expensive. That's expensive for
So
you.
what would have been, they're like, oh, I've wanted to buy from you for so long, but I don't want to pay, the 80, $90 for shipping. It cost me like $49 to do hub shipping
Yeah.
down there. I
Yeah.
was like, so I don't know what they're doing. I've seen some weird stuff going on with the shipping companies now and how they do their discounts. It seems very sketchy. I think Morph Market's kind of like shined a light that, you know what? Shipping doesn't need to be this expensive. So it's weird, but I like Morph Market shipping. I'm definitely going to be offering it a lot more now, and it might be my go to. I'd love to see what the plan is in the next couple months. I know he has different ideas on structuring and how that's going to go with the membership tiers, but it's definitely on my radar. I kind of shoved it off in the beginning, but I've had a positive experience, and the price, you can't beat the price. So I'm really excited to see how that looks like in the future with them.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. I said definitely have a
Mm.
great night, Dakota. I said, like I said, we'll chat after this real quick.
Yeah.
Everybody else, have a great night. I said we'll see you next Sunday.
Later, guys.
All right, cool. All right, yeah. Like I said last before we started, like I said, when this episode